Hope everyone had a good reading week. You read a lot, and I hope your ARP projects are progressing well. Don't forget, FAR and I are always here to support you. So if you would like individual meetings with your advisor, please don't hesitate to approach us to meet. If you would like some commentary on anything you've prepared to date or how to move forward, that is our role. So we're always here to support you. So today we're going to give you some tips on technical report writing. So most of you have prepared a draft of your table of contents and your introduction and your background sections and your site investigation. And at your last progress meeting, we actually recommended that you would have sections of your design and analysis completed as well in a draft format to make your lives easier in March and April. So if you have any questions while we're going through the presentation, I'm going to go back because I can't see your, just put your comments in the chat or just stop me and then we can, I can answer your questions, or Farah can answer your questions from there. Okay, I think I'm good to do it. I can see your chat. Okay, so technical report writing. So for technical report writing, it's important that you determine what your report message is. So your report message might be threefold. So this is just an example of a technical report message. So it might be there's a need for better drainage, that you prepared a functional design or a preliminary design, which would be your ARP project, and your final design is supported by measurement, lab testing, and analyses. You don't have to state your message this succinctly, but rather just keep your messages that you want to portray to the reader in mind when deciding what to include in your report. These are just the three classic principles of report writing. Tell the readers what you're going to say to them. So that would be the introduction of your report, and then you tell them. So that would be the body of your report. And then you tell them what you just told them, and that would be the summary of your report. So these are just the very general or classic rules of report writing. Okay, so now we're going to get into the report writing basics. So one of the ways I recommend that you write your report is to be concise. So avoid repeating the same message in multiple ways or just using different words. So just be concise, just say it once. You don't need to say it different ways or different times throughout the report. Exclude any irrelevant details. So if the details aren't relevant to your project, then don't include them. So for example, I'm trying to think, if you're doing a roadway design project in Winnipeg, but then you're talking about a roadway design project in Calgary, and there's really no correlation or you can't tie them together, then I really don't need to know about that roadway design project in Calgary, because it's not really relevant to the report that you're preparing or the project that you're working on. Keep to the point. So keep to the point in your report writing. And then I guess the key with being concise is to balance brevity in writing with providing evidence of good work. So you want to make sure that the latter, so the evidence of your good work, is found in abundance, but your sections also have an appropriate level of detail. So I know this will be the challenge with your report writing, but as Farah and I mentioned, we're willing to review a draft copy of your report, and I believe we gave a deadline of the 3rd week of March for groups to submit a draft copy of your report if you would like us to read it and to provide any commentary to you. My next recommendation, and I'm sure Farah's is the same, is be clear. So state your case unambiguously. So just be very clear in your writing and emphasize your major ideas in your sentence structure or in your paragraphs as well. Any questions on this slide for report writing? Okay. The next recommendation is to write objectively and without bias. So what we mean by this is keep to the facts. So avoid providing an opinion in your report if you can't back it up with evidence or expert support. So unless you have a technical expert that's going to support you and you have personal communication with them, or unless you have evidence from technical journal articles or other sources, avoid using your opinion unless you can back it up. So just keep to the facts and focus on the results of your project and not excuses. So what we mean by that is maybe you conducted your design but you didn't make it to one section because you ran out of time. So you didn't do one portion of the analysis because you didn't plan well and you ran out of time. Well, we don't want to hear that you didn't plan well and you ran out of time. So focus on your results and don't provide us with excuses on why you didn't complete your project. So the onus is on the students to complete the project and just focus on the results. With your report, also provide continuity. So give thought to the message that you're going to communicate in every section. So each section of your report should have a message. And then when you're laying out each section of your report, the order of the sections should also be logical. So you shouldn't have your introduction and then go into design and analysis and then go into background information or site investigation. So the order of the sections in your report should also be logical. And one section should lead to the next section. So you have to give thought to how you're going to transition between the different sections because these transitions are important. It's helping the reader sort of, how will I phrase this? It helps the reader, or it helps the ease of reading your report if there's good transitions between one section to another section. Otherwise, the report seems a little disjointed because you're jumping from one topic to another topic. So that's why it's good to have transitions. Any questions on objectivity and continuity in report writing? Oh, okay. Some technical report writing suggestions. Most of you are aware of this from your proposal. Don't write in the first person. So don't say I, we, refrain from using those types of pronouns. Refer to yourself in the third person. So for example, in your report, you could refer to your group either by the name of your consulting organization, or you could refer to yourself as the authors or the designers. Another good technical report writing suggestion is to use the past tense. So generally, it's just easier if you write your report in the past tense. Don't jump back and forth between present tense and past tense, just stick to past tense. If you can, avoid putting ideas in parentheses. So if you have an idea, make sure it's in a sentence and it's not at the end of another sentence with that idea just in parentheses. The next suggestion is more related to grammar. Remove run-on sentences and semicolons. So if you can divide a sentence into two sentences, then do it. Try to refrain or limit the use of however, therefore, or any other types of run-on sentences, or avoid run-on sentences. Paragraphs should range in length between 3 and 10 sentences. So when you're making a paragraph, make sure it's not shorter than 3 sentences and make sure it's not longer than 10 sentences. Use active case when you're writing and not passive case. So an example of passive case is when you use the word by. So this example here, Eng company provided elevation data. So this is the active case. Whereas if you were to write in the passive case, it would state the elevation data was provided by Eng company. So please try to write in the active case. Avoid using the words it was observed that, it was apparent that, it was decided that. Try to avoid using those that type of terminology in your report. Use correct symbols and terminology. So don't use slang words. So if there's a technical term that should be used, use that technical term. And if there's symbols that need to be used in the report, use the correct symbols. Unless unavoidable, write out that is instead of IE, and write out for example instead of EG. So these are just some basic technical report writing suggestions. Anyone have any questions? You guys are pretty quiet this morning. Do you guys have a test tomorrow? Okay, so over the years, Farah and I have seen some common ARP report writing mistakes. So please try to avoid this if you can. So try to avoid grammatical, spelling, and sentence structure errors. So the way you can avoid that is the spell checker and Word, and you have multiple group members. So don't leave it up to one person in your group to write the technical report. It's a group effort. Everyone should proofread the entire report, and everyone should be helping write different sections of the report. Don't organize your report like a travel log. First we did this, then we did that, thirdly we did that. So don't organize it like a travel log. Again, make sure you use the appropriate or the proper technical terms. Don't use any slang or jargon. That's not appropriate in a technical report. Plagiarism, please avoid plagiarizing because no one wants to take ARP again. And we really like you guys, but I don't want to see you back next year. So please avoid plagiarizing in your ARP report. Give credit where credit is due. Seeking minimal input and review from all group members. So what I mean by this is if it was Farah and I in an ARP group and I decided to go to Mexico and I left Farah to write the entire ARP report. Well, that's not really fair. It's supposed to be a group collaborative effort. And Farah shouldn't be responsible for writing the entire report and doing all of the edits. It's a group effort, so everyone should, 3 heads are better than 1, so everyone should have equal input and should conduct equal number of reviews of the report. Make sure you don't gloss over details. I've seen this a lot where there's cut and paste errors, where I've seen the same table in the report 3 times. I don't think they meant to have the same table 3 times. They put incorrect tables in the report, or there's improperly labeled figures and tables. So it says refer to this one table, table 4.2, but they really meant table 4.4. So just make sure you don't gloss over details. Make sure you have page numbers in your report. Make sure you're not missing page numbers. And the final mistake, please don't miss the deadline. This has happened, but please don't miss your ARP report deadline, which is April the 14th. Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, Coffee still hasn't kicked in. Okay, here's the 3 stages of report writing. So the first stage is to plan. So by the first progress meeting that we had with you guys, we subconsciously had you guys doing the planning stage of your ARP report. So you guys were to determine the purpose, you did your preliminary or your background research, and you made a draft table of contents. So you were starting to organize and outline your thoughts. Second progress meeting, we asked you guys to prepare a draft or as much as you could of a draft for your design and analysis section. So now you had started to enter into the writing phase of your technical report. So you were writing, you were worried about phrasing and wording, and you were starting to lay out, do the layout of your report and pages. We also recommended that you had individuals start to work on the appendices of the report, and also individuals starting to work on your AutoCAD drawings or any drawings you have associated with the report, and having someone prepare the bibliography as well, or the reference section, and maybe start to develop a list of tables and figures. So you guys should be well within this writing phase of your technical report. And then the final phase is the revision phase, where you're doing your revisions for grammar, sentence structure, and you're going to verify the purpose of your report. Okay, report writing guide. This is just a guide. This is how I prepare technical reports, and I'm sure Farah prepares them in a similar manner. You can follow it step by step. You can change up the order a little bit, but this is my guide to you in how to write a technical report. So you've already prepared step one, prepare a draft table of contents. So you prepared that for your first progress meeting with your advisor. You can revise your table of contents as the report or as your project progresses, but you guys have all completed step one. Step two, you guys should be well underway with this as well. For the second progress meeting, you submitted to us your 60% of your design and analysis section. So start writing your draft report. So my recommendation would be to start with the body of the report, which you guys have already started with. So start with the body of the report. And when you're writing or you're just starting to write your technical report, write any relevant information that comes to your mind. Just type it up, just get it on the page. That being said, you can go back and edit and add to it and proofread later on. My recommendation, leave your conclusion and recommendations to the end of your first draft. It's good to formulate ideas and thoughts in your mind. And once you have the preceding sections and developed and composed, it's easier to write your recommendations and conclusion at that point. There should be someone within your group that has started to develop your appendices. So someone should be developing your appendices. So your appendices could include drawings, it could include calculations, it can include Excel spreadsheets, that sort of thing. And my other recommendation is leave the executive summary at this point. Executive summaries are probably one of the most difficult sections of the report to write. So leave your executive summary to the end. So you guys should be well within your writing your first draft of your report. So after you have your first draft of your report, oh, sorry, did someone have a question?
Sorry.
No. So revise your first draft. So after you have your first draft complete, as a group, collectively do revisions on your first draft. So check for any grammatical errors, sentence structure, or spelling errors. Go through it this time and do any edits to make sure your wording is clear, concise, and continuous. At this point, you can also, after you've done your revisions, you can start to incorporate your pictures, figures, and graphs into the report. I really enjoy seeing pictures, figures, and graphs in the report because I feel that it aids in the report conciseness. So if you can tell the reader to refer to table 4.2 and whatever information, material properties are presented in table 4.2, and you can tie in a conclusion to that table, and you can explain to the reader the results that are presented in that table, it helps aid in the report conciseness. One key point is make sure you reference any pictures, figures, or graphs that you include in your report. Make sure they're referenced in the body of the report. It doesn't add a lot to a report just to have random figures, pictures, graphs, if there's no reference to them in the body of the report, because it's not up to me to infer why you included these in your report or what these figures, graphs, or tables are trying to tell me. So that would be your responsibility as the author. After that, you can finalize your appendices and your list of references. Add your page numbers, your title page, your table of contents, and your list of figures. After all of that has been compiled, proofread your report again. So each member of your group should proofread your report. And after that, you can prepare your executive summary. And then once everything's been compiled, proofread your report one last time. So I'm going to pause there and see if anyone has any questions on report writing. Yeah, it would help, wouldn't it, if you got paid to do it? But you know what? In 10 weeks, you will get paid.
I think Jordan's mic is on. Would you unmute your mic, please, Jordan?
Mic. Okay, the ARP presentation looked like this year. Yeah, we had a meeting, all of the ARP instructors so far, and I will send out details regarding what the presentations will look like this year. So we'll provide you with clear guidance on that. You won't be presenting in a big lecture theater like what students have done in the past.
But this
Individuals.
year, right. Go ahead, Elena.
I was just going to say, individuals from industry will be invited to the presentations. So when you conduct, you'll have to do a presentation live. You'll be given a time slot. People from industry will be invited. They'll know what time each group's presentation is at, and they can come in and out of the meeting.
Yes, I was
Cool.
going to say the same thing. So there will be some people present this year, which we couldn't do last year because we were just at the beginning of the pandemic and everything got distracted. But this year we are going to invite back the people from industry. But it's going to be via WebEx, the presentation. So you will coordinate among yourselves who is going to present what slide, and you will share your content from your computer. And this is how it's going to work.
Unlike previous years, you won't be required to attend every single presentation. So far, and I will provide you guidelines with how many presentations we suggest that you attend, but you won't be required to attend all 13 presentations. So there'll be other instructors invited as well, similar to other years. So all instructors within the civil engineering department will be invited, and also industry as well. Okay, please don't be this person here. I saw this and this made me laugh really hard. You guys are actually probably too young for Facebook. You guys probably don't use it. That's probably people more of my genre. But here's a posting. I don't know what you guys use, WhatsApp. So your posting that you put on WhatsApp, you've probably read your status or proofread it 5 to 10 times. Whereas you're writing an essay for school or writing your ARP project, this guy here is laughing and he said, I proofread it exactly 0 times. So please don't be the guy on the right. Please be the guy on the left or gal on the left or right, because your advisor will know. So Farah and I will know if your group has not proofread your report at all. It shows. Okay. Next slide, bulleted lists. There's 3 ways in which you can present bulleted lists. So the first one is bulleted lists. They should read as a single sentence with ideas separated by commas or semicolons, or it could be a list of individual sentences. I've shown you the 2 different approaches if you're going to use a bulleted list, and then your third option would be individual sentences. So the first option just shows when your ideas are separated by commas, and the second option shows when your ideas are separated by a colon and then a semicolon. So you would have your first sentence, which would be identifying that you're going to provide a list. So that would have a colon at the end, and then each of your individual ideas after that would be separated by a semicolon. Either 3 of these approaches are considered acceptable. I generally use the middle approach. I don't know, Farah, which one do you generally use?
What was that again, Elena?
Do you have a preference in how bulleted lists should read? I said I generally use the second approach. Like either is considered technically correct. I generally use the second approach where there's semicolons and colons.
One? Yeah, I use that too.
So you can use either of the 3. Farah and I both generally use the second one. If you're looking for guidance on which one you should use, that's the one that we generally use in technical report writing. Now my computer's. Okay, figures and tables. We've gone over this in the past, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just wanted to reinforce the idea. Figures and tables should have a number and a caption. So some examples are table 2, material properties. When you're labeling a table, your caption always appears above the table. And we went over this in the drawing and base plan presentation. Another example would be figure 5, compression test results from concrete cylinders. And when you're labeling a figure captions always appear below the table. And as I mentioned previously, every figure and table should be referenced within the text. So really the figures and tables aren't going to augment your report if you don't reference them and if you don't explain the relevance of the results that you're providing in the figure or in the table. If you're providing a picture, you would just label the picture as well. Usually we label pictures with a figure number as well. But explain to the reader what the relevance of this figure is, identify the figure in the report with either the figure number or the table number, because again, this information, it's not really useful unless you direct me to the appropriate figure or table in the report. And then explain what the importance of the results are or what the significance of the figure is. So I've just provided you an example of a figure that was labeled. It was a photograph that I took way back in 2007. So that just gives you an example of how I labeled the figure for my thesis. And again, here I labeled a table in my thesis as well. So you'll notice that the table is labeled at the top, and back here the figure is labeled at the base of the figure. So this just gives you an example. Appendices. Appendices are a really important component of your report. All relevant work should be included in the appendices, and you'll have multiple appendices in your report. You don't have to go into great detail in the body of your report if the detail can be placed in the appendix. So the appendices become an important component of your report. All appendices should be cited within your report. So if you would like the reader to refer to Appendix B because it contains detail of your design or of your analysis, refer the reader to Appendix B. That being said, we do read, Fabian, I'll just answer that in a second. We do read and we do review your appendices in detail. So, so don't assume just because you're putting information in the appendix that it's not going to be reviewed, because they are reviewed in detail by both Lara and I. So appendices are a very important component of your report. So again, make sure you've clearly labeled each of your appendices. So you would be Appendix B, and then you would state what will be contained in Appendix B as well. And your appendices should also be labeled in your table of contents. If we're putting. You don't need to label it as a figure because it's not within the main body of the report. You could just label it just with a caption of a description of what it is. So is this for your site investigation component, Fabian? Yeah, you might want to go like photo 1, and this is what it's a photo of, photo 2, photo 3. But it's because it's not within the main body of the report, you don't have to label it as a figure. Oh, Farah wants all of them labeled?
Yeah, I thought like labeling each figure would be good, but it doesn't have to have a figure number. Usually I did that, like if it was in Appendix A, say I would have appendix figure number A.1 or something. But yeah, I don't know if you want them not label it, that's okay, I guess. I don't know. I would label them.
Yeah, okay, Fabian, we'll talk about that for your group, okay? Okay, quotes and citations. So it's uncommon to directly quote an author in a technical report. So usually you might include components of information that they presented, but you don't generally directly quote them. If you are going to directly quote them, you can either use quotation marks, or you can provide the entire quotation indented and italicized. So quotation marks are the preferred option. So if you're going to directly quote someone, I recommend you use the quotation marks. Cite all written works used to prepare the report. So again, this comes back to please don't plagiarize. So if you're obtaining information from another author, so if you're going to be quoting portions of a report or paraphrasing someone else's work, make sure that you cite them. So give credit where credit is due. So provide citations when you use an article, book, or a report that supports any of your statements that are made, or that would provide useful supplemental information for an interested reader. So just make sure you cite all written works that you use to prepare your report or that you used as a reference when writing your report. I just gave 3 examples here of how you could incorporate citations into the text of your report. So you can use it at the beginning of a sentence. So you could use the citation at the beginning of the sentence to support results that you obtained during your ARP investigation to indicate that other researchers have found similar results. If you're paraphrasing someone else's work, you could provide that citation at the end. I also gave an example of personal communication. So if you're talking to someone within industry and they provided you information, here's how you would reference personal communication with an expert within industry. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on references. Your references should follow either APA or Chicago format. We more frequently use Chicago format for engineering reports or articles. References are listed in alphabetical order of the first author's last name. So you might see multiple authors for a journal article, but the first author is always the primary author. So you might look at some technical reports and be like, well, they didn't put the author's names in alphabetical order. And that's because the first author is the primary author of the report. So when you're doing your list of references, make sure that you alphabetize it by the first author of the report. So alphabetical order of the first author's last name. I provided you examples of Chicago format citations that were taken from the Canadian Geotechnical Journal, instructions to authors. So that's on the preceding slide, so you can look at that as a reference. I've also provided you with the list of references that I used for my thesis, so for my master's thesis. So that's under week 14 as well, I believe. So you can take a look at my list of references to see how it was formatted. One word of caution, online articles are fine, but web pages are usually not an acceptable resource. So if you're using Wikipedia, that's generally not an acceptable resource. Web pages are good resources for locating sound technical resources, so technical journal articles, technical papers, conference proceedings, that sort of thing. But web pages, be skeptical of the information that's provided on there. Here's just an example of list of references, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I provided an example of a journal article, an online journal article, a report, a book, and a paper in conference proceedings, a government report, and a thesis. So you can use this as a reference, or you can also use my list of references that I provided you from my thesis. So that's what we have for you on technical report writing. Anyone have any questions?
I would like to show them the document that.
Oh yeah, I was going to go over that after.
Yeah, so are you going to do that?
Yeah, I can go over that.
Okay. So if you guys follow that document, you would know exactly what section should include what.
Yeah.
The document is very thorough, and we developed that, and it says like what needs to be in introduction, what needs to be in the research
So can you
section.
guys see this on the screen? Does it come up?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Maybe
so I,
increase the size a little bit.
pardon me?
The size, you might want to increase the size a little bit.
Okay. Does it? Oh. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe we emailed this to you guys in early December, but I was going to go over it today as well because I think this goes over or it fits in well with this technical report writing presentation. I've also uploaded the document to week 14 as well, where you'll find the PowerPoint presentation on technical report writing and the list of references. So this document's also included as well. So final reports, again, the report should be well organized and clearly written, but you should provide full attention, or you should have full attention to detail. So that's a recommendation, and it ties in with our presentation today. So general information about preparing your report. You should use a word processor in preparing your report. And if you're using software, so if you're going to use graphing software, so use Excel or use AutoCAD, that sort of thing. Report should be printed on A4 sheet, so 8.5 by 11, with font size not exceeding 12 point, and your spacing should be 1.5. One person from each group will be responsible for submitting the report on Learn. So there will be a folder for each of the groups. So only one person from each group needs to submit the final report. You'll also have to include your AutoCAD drawings and any Excel files as well with your report so that both Farah and I can review them when we're reviewing your final report. Because we review the calculations and the drawings as well. Writing quality, I'm not going to go over this in immense detail because I already went over this in the PowerPoint slide today. So read this on your own time. If you have any questions about writing quality, you can either contact Farah or I. Format of the report, any acceptable scientific format may be used. And then we've given examples of acceptable formats. So sections should be numerated as section or 1.0 introduction, or you could just use 1 dot introduction, or Roman numeral I1 introduction. So just be consistent with your numbering of your sections in your report. All pages must be numbered. Roman numerals are used for pages preceding the main report. So your table of contents, list of figures, use Roman numerals, but the main section of your report starts at page 1. So the introduction section of your report is page 1. We've talked about descriptive captions for figures and tables, and we've discussed where those are included. If you're using an Excel graph, make sure you don't have a title for your Excel graph. Make sure you only need to title your graph once. So remove or delete any title graphs in Excel. The titles, so when you're using rows and columns in an Excel spreadsheet or in a table, make sure that they're descriptive so that Farah and I know what data you're trying to communicate or portray to us, and make sure that all appropriate units are provided. So the table should be able to stand on its own, and we should be able to easily understand the data. All Excel spreadsheets and files associated with the data analysis should be provided in the appendices of your report. So I know when you're submitting your report, it will typically come as a PDF document. So that's where I'm recommending that you submit your Excel spreadsheet and your drawing files to us separately. Avoid using red and green font color as well. Before I get into the main sections of the report, do you have anything else to add?
No, it's okay, good.
Okay. So the main sections of your report, so we recommend or strongly suggest that the following elements are included in your report in the order that they're provided. So you should have a cover page. So you would provide the name of the institution, so that's Red River College, and then that would be followed by the civil engineering technology and then municipal engineering technology. So you would have the name and the code or the course number. And then you would also have the title of the report, the name of the course instructor, your date of submission, and then the name and date or name and student ID of all group members. After that, you would have your executive summary. So this executive summary clearly and concisely summarizes the report, and it's generally about 200 to 300 words in length. After that, you would have your table of contents. So you would show all headings and subheadings, starting from your executive summary, going all the way to the appendices of your report. So it would have your introduction, it would also have your body of your report, your references, your appendices, and each of those sections should have a corresponding page number associated with it. You would have your list of tables and list of figures as well. So those list of tables and figures would provide the figure or table number in addition to the figure name or the table name, and then the page number associated with each table and figure. Example table of contents, it's provided in week 11 and also week 14 folder and learn. Next after that would be introduction. So you would introduce the project to the reader by briefly and concisely describing the main purpose of the project. You would go over the scope of the work and the benefit, importance, and significance of the project, and then the limitations of it. So most of you have already written your introduction and it's been reviewed by your advisor. So I'm not going to spend time on the introduction, so any more time on it. And then research, we've talked about this as well, and we had a lecture on research or how to conduct your research and present your information in your ARP project. If you have specific questions, just address those to your advisor. Similarly to site investigation, most of you or all of you should have written the site investigation section. Your advisor has reviewed it and we discussed it previously. Design and analysis. Most of you have started to write this section at least, or should be about 60% of the way through writing this section. So you would outline exactly step-by-step how you performed your design and analysis. This is where you would include tables and figures or drawings if they're relevant. The details or any Excel spreadsheets, you would include those in the appendices. And then you would reference your appendices in the body of the report. I'm not going to spend time on the tables or figures. Discuss any possible sources of error. So in your design and analysis section as well. So you can mention personnel or instrumentation errors or any assumptions that you were made when doing the design and analysis. So if your group had to make assumptions to move forward, clearly state what those assumptions are so the reader's aware of them. The key point is, and sometimes I've noticed in the previous years, groups have had a difficult time doing this. You need to describe and explain the observations that can be drawn from your analysis. So you need to indicate to the reader what the relevance or the importance or significance of the results of your analysis are, and then what conclusions can be drawn from your analysis. So that's key. That's what takes you from a 3.5 to a 5 to be able to do that analysis and explain the significance or relevance of it and tie it all together. Okay, I'm going to pause there because we presented you with a lot, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions.
One of the question was, do we want both civil and municipal? Like I'm guessing they're talking about, Fabian is talking about the cover page. So aren't like everybody in civil engineering technology, then comes the division, right? Municipal, geomatics, environmental, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, so civil engineering technology is one line that you should have, one item, and then your division within civil engineering technology. Is there a standard cover page? So if you just have the name of the Red River College, then the name of the like the civil engineering technology, and then your division, which is like municipal. Then you have the items that is listed in this document that we prepared carefully. It says what the items should be on the cover page. If you write all those, it should be okay. There is no standard format as such. You can take an example of the cover page of any of the modules that probably you had from Red River College, say water and wastewater treatment, that course. Those cover pages can be one of the standard cover page. Otherwise, I'm open to any format. It's just all the information needs to be there. Your name, date, whatever is listed in this document, like the report writing guideline that Elena is going through right now. So the items that is listed under the cover page in this document, if you write all those, it should be okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, okay. Recommendations. So recommendations, we want you to reflect on your project and determine if your group would have done anything different if they were to do the project over again. So if you do have any ways in which you would have conducted your project differently, provide details on what the group would propose. And then also identify future work that should be conducted to enhance the project. So that's the information that should be included in the recommendation section. Conclusion, you just present a summary of the project indicating the scope, the techniques used, and the results obtained. Based on the achieved results, explain if your objectives were met. So that would be your conclusion section. References, I think we've gone over this in enough detail, and I think you have enough information. And then appendices, we've talked about appendices in detail as well. So this is a great document for you guys to use when you're preparing your report. It gives you a good idea of what needs to be included in each section of your report. Again, Farah and I are open to reviewing draft reports that groups have prepared if they're submitted before the third week of March. I think Farah, was it around the 24th or so we gave as a deadline?
I don't remember.
Yeah, something, I believe it's in there. It's in the course outline. We gave a date.
Yeah, and we will remind you when we are closer to that date. First thing is next would be presentation or lecture on presentation, how to present your ARP. That's probably next. And then we will have meeting number 3, progress meeting. And after that, probably we're going to discuss when they can submit their draft report.
Mm-hmm.
This guide is on learned since when you were first doing your first progress meeting. So I uploaded this document when some of you asked like how to write a document. You were not sure. There was a need for that. So that this document was developed at that time, and it has been uploaded long time ago.
And I also included it under the same folder as the PowerPoint presentation for technical
Yeah.
writing. So
Yeah.
they can locate it in there as well.
Yeah.
So the document is available on Learn.
Right. It is on week number 14 folder, and it was uploaded a long time ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Learn. And it first came when there was the need for guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's on week 14 and it's on Learn, and this is a really good document you can refer to. It guides you like where which information should go. I find it really good.
So I know we probably bombarded you with a lot of information today, especially before the copies kicked in. Does anyone have any questions on the information that was presented today?
I'm going to stop the recording now, Elena.
Okay. I can stop sharing my screen.
It gets bigger and then it gets problematic to upload. The bigger it is, it takes more time. I guess they don't have any other
They
questions.
don't have any questions?
Yeah. But they have been exposed to report writing already. They went through 2 progress meetings, so they are quite further progress this year, I would say.
Yeah, like you guys are much farther along than I think groups have been in previous years.
Because we decided to guide them this way this year.
Yeah.
Before it was a little different. So
yeah, it was up to the students to write the report whenever, but we thought this might work a little bit better where we had milestones of which sections of the report should be written by when.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys are free to go. But just remember, Farah and I are always here to support you. So if your groups have questions, we're available today, or just send us an email and we're happy to meet with you outside of class as well. Otherwise, you guys are free to go. Your Wednesday is yours. Work hard on ARP.
Right. Do we have a class next week, Elena?
No.
So it's open for group work next week?
Yes. Yes, next week's open for group work.
Okay. And when is the lecture for presentation? The week after?
No, we had scheduled it later than that, but we might want to move it forward.
Okay. Or maybe we can just keep it as it is.
Yeah, it's after we had initially scheduled it for after the 3rd progress meeting.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But we can talk about moving it forward. Do you guys want the information on ARP presentations earlier rather than later? What works for you guys?
In my opinion, it would be better if it's later, because then it will be closer to their presentation time and they might be more interested at that time. And they already know how to present. That's my understanding.
You guys are pros.
Yeah. Later is good. Okay.
Yep.
So we will keep our schedule as it is. We just had a little change because of that PC swim. Otherwise, we were going as we planned. So
Yeah.
we will keep that schedule.
Okay, well, you guys are free to go. Farah and I are available today to meet with our groups if they would like to meet with us. Otherwise, have a great Wednesday.
Right. I have some meetings, but yeah, if anyone would like to meet, then I would need to know what time. Like I have meetings starting from 1 and then to 2:30, and right now there is something going on. I'm not there yet.
Okay, well, have a great day. I have a group I'm meeting at 10:30, and then there, I believe, was another group that was going to stay on the line for my GM2 course. They wanted some guidance, so they can just stay on the line.
Right. Do they want me in?
No, you don't need to stay. It's related to my other course that I teach them in.
This is my room, so I cannot go.
Oh, you can't go. Okay. Then what was I
Then
going to
you want
say?
to take them to your room?
Yeah, so the group that I was going to meet with after ARP, come to my WebEx meeting room. So the link to my WebEx room is under the news item for GM2. So you'll be able to find me, no problem. Okay, so Kelly et al., I'll see you in my WebEx meeting room.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Okay, see you, Vara.
See ya.